Hey guys, just want to go over a few of the finer points of using knee wraps in your training and in competition if you do competitions. We're going to go over how to use them the best way for you individually in the squat and any other kind of knee bend exercise you might be doing, whether it's for protection or you're just trying to lift as much weight as you can. And also, we're going to go over a few ways of how to use them in your warm-ups and also to increase mobility as well. Now it doesn't really matter if you use super soft knee wraps like these old Inzer red lines like this, 2 meters long, real pliable, stretch a whole lot. Or use the kind of knee wraps I do in competition. This is one knee wrap. It's one of the 3 meter double rippers from Inzer as well. Very hard to stretch because it's a whole lot of knee wrap. But either way, I'm going to show you the best way to do these as far as I know. The most common way to wrap your knees is the kind that we see everybody do in the gym, whether they compete or not. And it's just taking normal horizontal wraps around the knee, up and down, until you run out of knee wrap and then you tuck it under somewhere. I'm going to show you hopefully a little bit more efficient way of doing that. Now, with all of my knee wrap techniques, I make a tab at the top of the kneecap. So, start up here, and I'm going to pull this end up, and then leave this exposed so I can tie it off with the other end of the wrap later. Now, if you want to just do the horizontal wrap, which is going to give you some good knee support, hopefully help with a little bit of knee pain if you have it, but isn't going to impede you too much, you just want to make horizontal wraps all the way up. Now, notice this first wrap up here, the bottom of the wrap is at the very top of the kneecap. My first wrap on the bottom is at the very bottom of the kneecap. So we're going to completely encompass this joint, but we're not going to waste wrap from going down here away from the joint or up here away from the joint. So take it under, pull tight, and we're going to try and get about half of a wrap overlap every time we go around. Under, pull tight, under, pull tight. And when you have enough wrap around your knee, you feel good, you can pull that and tie it just like you do when you start tying your shoes. And instead of having to loosen up of one of your last wraps to be able to tie it off somewhere, you can actually make the entire thing a lot tighter by cinching that down super hard. Best part about this wrapping technique is it's so easy to get off. Pops right out. You don't have to spend time fishing around trying to find that tab that you hid somewhere under a knee wrap. You pull the longest end and it pops right off. The second progression in the knee wraps is a little bit stiffer and should be able to give you a little bit more support or spring out of the hole in your squat. This is going to stiffen the knee wrap and it's actually going to cause you to want to drift forward a little bit in your squat. So make sure that you are conscious about trying to sit back harder in the squat, because you don't want to get pitched forward and your knees get out in front of you, because you're going to lose balance, you're going to get away from any kind of groove that you had in the squat and probably miss pretty bad. So just make sure you stay on your heels. We're going to start the same way, making our tab at the top, but instead of starting at the bottom and making horizontal wraps, we're going to make diagonal wraps right across the top of the kneecap. And what this is going to do is when your knee bends, instead of the wraps being parallel like this and being able to slide this way, with a diagonal wrap, the wraps are actually going to have to stretch that way, all the way across the knee wrap, or across the kneecap, forcing it to stretch in a much more difficult direction for the material. And we're going to make this X first, and then we're going to put horizontal wraps on top of it to really cinch it down to where it's harder and harder for the knee wrap to stretch. So pull tight, right on top of the kneecap, come around the bottom, pull tight, right on top of the kneecap, and we're just going to make one solid X on top, and then our normal wrap below. Right there is the bottom of my kneecap, and we're going to make horizontal wraps all the way up. Won't be quite as many, so we might need to space it out just a little bit more, but the concept is still the same. Make a tab at the top, And that should be worth several more pounds on your squat. It's a lot harder to bend the knee with that setup and easy to pop off. This next technique I learned from my original mentor in powerlifting, Buddy Nichols in North Carolina, and I will always call it the Nichols technique because it was unique to him and I haven't actually seen anyone else do it but him. So I'll give him all the credit. He didn't start with a tab at the top, but like I said before, I always start that way because it's easy to get off. So what he did, it ends up looking like a tire tread to me. And instead of having horizontal wraps all the way up, he makes crosses instead of horizontal wraps. So he's still overlapping about the same amount, but he's making crosses to try and make the knee wraps stiffer. Just like that. Almost ran out of wrap there. These little 2-meter wraps. But it's all cinched in, and to me, when I see him do it well, this looks like a tire tread. So, hopefully it's a little bit stiffer than a normal horizontal wrap, and it's still easy to get off. Now this technique I actually use in my warm-ups now quite a bit, and it's a form of active release therapy for the quadriceps as well as the hamstring, and it should help loosen up the IT band just a little bit as well. Now when I'm doing my warm-up squats with just the bar, when I start, doesn't matter how strong you are, you always start with the bar one way or another. I'm actually going to start on top of the kneecap up here, but I'm going to make my tab the other direction. And I'm going to make a full overlap of one full knee wrap width. Pull tight, just like that, pull tight. I'm going to go all the way up the thigh as far as I can and try to encompass as much musculature as I can. And take the last little bit and tie off at the bottom. Now what this is going to do, my knee still has full range of motion, but it's applying pressure on the muscles of the quads, the hamstrings, a little bit on the IT band, and a lot of the adductors as well. So what this will do is it compresses the skin onto the muscle fascia, which is on top of the muscle, the clear looking tissue until you get to the red meat underneath. And it's going to take that skin, pin it to the fascia so that the fascia cannot move as much. So you get little adhesions between the muscle and the fascia called scar tissue or myofascial adhesions. And those prevent the muscle from sliding under the fascia. So it gets stuck to it and it kind of does that along the fascia because it's literally kind of glued to it. So with this pressure, and we take full range of motion squats, what happens is that little bit of scar tissue breaks apart because the fascia is not allowed to move and the muscle is going through its normal range of motion. And you'll get to see that on a video I recorded earlier. Now this next technique I actually use for treating shin splints and also preventing them as well. And it's the same concept as the myofascial release technique that we do on the quadriceps, except it's going to be on the lower leg. So, what we want to do is I prefer to start low, some prefer to start high. I'll make my tab down here, and we're going to wrap real snug all the way around the lower leg. And what I try to do is I try to focus on the soleus at the bottom below the big part of the calf, the gastrocnemius, because that is typically what gets real tight on me. I've used this with all kinds of field athletes, powerlifters, weightlifters, and it seems to help quite a bit. And honestly, it feels a whole lot better than a normal manual release technique you might see with a bar, or somebody just digging their fingers in your lower leg. So we'll wrap real tight. Tie that down. Doesn't have to be super tight. But what I will do is go up next to a wall somewhere to get some leverage and just force the full range of motion of the calf. And that gives that same release technique kind of treatment as we had for the upper leg. And just like the other ones, it pops right off. You do that for both legs. You should see a good reduction in pain from shin splints if you ever have them, or just increased mobility of the lower leg.